Okay, so I'm a bit in the publishing mode right now. I've got two new publishing channels that I'm playing with. The first one is a podcast. So I don't have it's not released yet, but I've been working behind the scenes. I've actually started recording it, working on it. So that's a whole new channel for me. And the other one is Instagram. I've had an Instagram account for a very, very long time, but I've just actually started publishing there regularly. Been having a lot of fun with it. You can follow me at Jeff Walker CO. That's Jeff Walker CO. Like I said, having a lot of fun with Instagram, and I think I'm gonna have a lot of fun with the podcast. We're gonna see once it gets out in the public, and see how it lands. see how I'm doing. I haven't gotten any feedback there, but that's the thing is like whenever I publish, it is always about, or a large part of it is about getting feedback, hearing back from my readers, from my viewers, from my tribe, from my community, from my followers. Because that, I'd say 100% of my results in my business are based on getting that feedback and then adjusting my messaging and my offers to that feedback. Now, I definitely bring 100% of who I am, and I think I do things differently and I do it the way I want. And that I think is that's another big factor in my success over the years is I'm really clear who I am, and I'm just, I just put myself out there. But I do also pay attention to the feedback to see like, what do people want to learn? What do they want to, what are they curious about? What do they struggle with? What do they want to buy? And I know every time that I mention something along these lines, I hear back from people. There's always a few people that either quote either Henry Ford or Steve Jobs. Henry Ford famously said something along the lines of, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have told me faster horses. And instead he created, well, he didn't create the first car, but he created the first mass-produced car that millions of people bought. He had unbelievable success. He was an incredible innovator. But he was famously said, I didn't ask people what they wanted. If I did, they told me they wanted faster horses. Instead, I created better cars for them. And Steve Jobs, I can't remember what the quote was, but it was basically along the same lines. It's like, I'm not going to ask people what they want. I'm going to create something amazing and show it to them. And they didn't even know they wanted it until they saw it. And so every time I talk about getting feedback from your audience, basing your offers, basing your content on what people are asking for, what they're looking for, what they want, every time I mention that, people are, well, what about Steve Jobs? What about Henry Ford? This is the thing. First of all, if you want to be a complete game changer, groundbreaker, create something brand new, you might have amazing success like Steve Jobs had and like Henry Ford had, but the odds are hugely against you, as opposed to taking something, an idea out there and iterating it and making it better and finding a better way to communicate it and a better way to deliver it. Much higher odds going that iterative way instead of this brand new revolutionary way. That's fact number one. Fact number two is that Henry Ford didn't invent the car. It wasn't when he brought out the car, it wasn't a question of faster horses. The cars were already there. That market was evolving rapidly. What he brought more than a new car was he brought a new way of producing it. He brought a new way of manufacturing it. He brought, no one thought in terms of hundreds of thousands of cars or millions of cars the way he did. He was unbelievably revolutionary, but it wasn't in the actual product itself as much as in the process of creating the product. And Steve Jobs, another great innovator, but if we look at it, the iPod was an amazing success. The iPod is what ended up bringing me to Apple. And the reason it brought me to Apple is because I had a different music player beforehand, and it was horrible. It was just, everything about it was awful. And the iPod, I looked at that, I'm like, this is a better design. But the thing is it wasn't a new design. There's all kinds of music players, MP3 players before that. It was just a way better design. He took an idea, he did that over and over. The whole Apple, the Mac OS was based on designs that were not his. They were based on Xerox designs. There were plenty of smartphones before the iPhone. So even Steve Jobs, who was held up as someone who just was all about creating what he wanted to create and then sort of telling the consumer, this is an awesome thing, all his products were iterative. I have a hard time with that word, iterative. So I'm a huge fan of putting your material out there, of publishing. That's how you get started in this business. You get started by getting started with publishing, by putting your material out there, by starting to attract an audience and then figuring out what they want. This has worked for me over and over and over again for more than 20 years. And like I said, I think 100% of my success is, well, it's because I focused on building a list and focused on communicating with that list and figuring out what they wanted, building that tribe and asking them what they wanted. That's what's worked for me. And I've seen that work for most of the real successful people in this business have followed that same path. So head over to Instagram, follow me at Jeff Walker CO, and I'm going to be, I'll have that podcast and I will let you know. I'll send a few emails about that podcast once I get it released. It's coming up soon. I'm Jeff Walker. Wherever you're watching this, scroll down, leave a comment for me. Tell me what you think, and let's go get them this week.